Hey, I'm Trey and I have a story today about how serial killers can come from all walks of life, even someone close to you. If you're interested in finding out why people wake up one day, snap, kill everybody in sight within a 5-block radius, then subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button and also the notification button so you can be reminded of new uploads every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So if you're ready, let's get started. The year of our Lord 1905, in the country of Croatia, there was a small village by the name of Korkeknak. There was a married couple by the name of Rade Pavlik and Mika. Neighbors stated that they seemingly lived happily together and got along well with the others in the small village. The two of them were both born and raised in the village together, so people who knew both Mika and Rade remembered the time when they were both teenagers and dated and fell in love with one another. In March of 1934, they eventually grew up and got married. The townspeople always witnessed them being affectionate towards one another. One afternoon, Rade became violently ill. Rade had complained about stomach pains and having an extreme case of diarrhea. Along with his other problems, Rade experienced blood in his urine and muscle cramps. Mika summoned the doctor for her husband, but there was nothing that he could do for him. The doctor believed that he was suffering from intestinal problems. Science had not progressed enough to deal with these type of symptoms, so Rade was instructed by the doctor to remain in bed and get plenty of rest. Several days later, he died of natural causes. Thanks, Doc. Now mourning the death of her husband and the lack of opportunity for having children, she did inherit the home and land from her husband, so she was financially well off. Mika and her ex-husband came from a very large family. Over the next few months, dozens of family members came out in support of her and for some financial help, of course. During those times, it was normal for families to visit and even temporarily live with sickly or mourning family members during their times of need. They would then help out with whatever was needed. The majority of Mika and Rade's families were poor, so they became more of a burden than a help for Mika. Two of the visiting family members became sick. The local doctor came out to tend to their sickness and instructed them to drink plenty of water, stay off their feet for a few days, and get plenty of rest. Several days later, two more family members fell sick and the doctor was summoned to help. They fell prey to the same symptoms as did the other two family members. They had diarrhea, stomach aches, along with blood during urinating, and violent cramps. The doctor was unsure of what he was actually dealing with. The only thing he was able to suggest was to prescribe some medicine to help alleviate some of the pain and to move them all to the medical clinic for observation. Shortly after being admitted, all four family members died. Back at Mika's home, the remaining 9 visiting family members became violently ill with the same symptoms as their relatives that died at the clinic. The unnamed 9 relatives all went to the clinic for medical attention and they all survived, but with lifelong medical issues after that incident. The neighbors of Mika became suspicious of her in regards to all the sicknesses that occurred at her home. In July, a family friend and local blacksmith, whose name was not provided, visited Mika's home out of concern for her multiple sick family members that had become violently ill after leaving her home. The family friend sat down for some lunch and discussion about the events. After a short time, he felt unwell and decided to leave. Mika requested that he stay longer because she could use the company. He was adamant about leaving because he felt sick, but didn't want to embarrass himself by throwing up after just eating Mika's food. So when he finally reached his home, he became violently ill. The unnamed friend began to have violent stomach cramps, diarrhea, severe convulsions, and vomiting. The wife contacted the doctor to respond to their home, but he died before medical attention arrived. The local villagers began to speak more out loud about the events. The unnamed blacksmith was one of Mika's advocates. Many believed that she was involved with the deaths of her own family members, but the blacksmith was well liked by everyone and suggested that they all give her a chance. Now that the blacksmith was dead after visiting her home, the villagers became angry and wanted Mika arrested and tried. The authorities exhumed all the bodies from her husband to her family members as well as the blacksmith. All of the bodies were found to have arsenic in their systems. When Mika was interviewed about the results of the autopsies, she denied any involvement in any of their deaths. The family members that did survive were also tested for arsenic with positive results. They gave accounts to the events that took place prior to their poisonings. They all attested that they were either given food and drink by Mika, in which they all consumed. Shortly after is when the symptoms came about. After being presented with the overwhelming evidence, Mika confessed to the poisonings of everyone. The reasoning behind her poisoning was that she was so successful with the murder and accumulation of wealth from her husband, she tried to kill her relatives for their money as well. In her mind, she figured that if she were to kill all her family members, she would get all of their possessions just by default. The blacksmith was poisoned due to him asking too many questions about all of her family members' deaths. See, the problem is, real life isn't like Scooby-Doo episodes. You're supposed to contact the police and stay out of it. Nika confessed that she would use arsenic in lieu of salt and pour it in everything food related and serve it to her guests. Mika was placed on trial, and during the proceedings, another relative stepped forward and stated that Mika tried to kill her 2-year-old son by poisoning him. The unnamed woman stated that she caught Mika in the act before administering the poison. The relative chose to keep her family away from Mika instead of just telling everyone. Mika was found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. She was executed in May of 1935. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. If so, hit the like button, subscribe, and also notification button so you can be reminded of new content that I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Also, I really appreciate some feedback, so if you can leave your comments in the comments section, really be thankful. God bless and stay safe.